Hello and welcome to Fantasy View with me, Jason Hubbard. Here I review fantasy novels to let you know what to read if it catches your fancy, and I'll let you know about the books I wrote myself. So, the future is looking pretty bright, isn't it? I'm not talking about the presidential race, hell no. I'm talking about virtual reality. With things like the Oculus Rift and PlayStation VR, the next step in interactive entertainment seems really exciting, doesn't it? Well, if you've read something like Feyland, The Dark Realm by Anthea Sharp, the latest development in VR technology should actually scare you shitless! 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 This book is the first one in my Fairy Worlds book collection that I have on my Kindle. It's a number of works done by authors who wish to continue the tradition set by J.M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, in which they write folklore stories in modern settings. While Barrie had created an island powered by the imagination of children, Sharp created a VR game that acts as a portal to the fairy realm. The book begins with a girl named Jeanette, and no, I don't mean Janet, as in, damn it, Janet, facing off against the Dark Queen, who is apparently taking time off from Battletoads. Jeanette is someone with mad gamer skills, yet she ends up losing the battle, and the Dark Queen claims Jeanette's life essence, which she keeps in a crystal ball. Jeanette then returns to the real world, where she's in a chair with a VR headset. She's still alive, but she feels like shit, and as we learn in the next chapter, her energy is waning. Skip ahead to a few weeks later when Jeanette and her dad are moving to a new city. The city is Nowheresville, in the nation of wherever you blindly point to on a map. Even if you point to somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there you go, why not? Sometimes the author keeps their setting vague like this because a corrupt city serves the story, and they wouldn't want to insult any real-life place. Not only is the location vague, but the time frame is somewhere far in the future, possibly in the year 3000, where schools issue out tablet computers that are outdated and falling apart, Wi-Fi technology is crazy efficient, and your house can talk to you and make phone calls and such. Jeanette's father is a computer programmer who's working on his company's latest game, Feyland. It's supposed to be a secret, but his daughter somehow cracked his security code and got access. She'd been playing it until the Dark Queen stole her life essence, and so now she's slowly dying, and she can't tell her father why, or else he'll call the men in white coats and have her committed. Or simply laugh at her, and I don't know. Jeanette's priority upon arriving at her new school isn't to learn what 1 + 1 equals, it's to find someone who has mad gaming skills who can help her win back her life essence by kicking the Dark Queen's ass. Which can't be easy. I mean, have you ever played Battletoads? I suppose she could have just taken out a request on Craigslist, but since you never know what kind of psychos you can come across there, I guess it's understandable why she wouldn't go that route. Shortly after showing off her own mad skills at the school's gamer club. A school actually has a gamer club? This really is the future. She comes across a dude named Tam Lin, who can not only beat Dark Souls with one hand tied to his back, but he nearly beat a tri-state gaming competition and won himself a sweet VR system. But Tam's not in a good state since his mother is a mental case and his brother likes to get into trouble due to some genetic disease or something. The author doesn't give any specifics, so I can only guess Tam's mother is suffering from dementia. Or it could just as easily be something else, I don't know. At any rate, Tam's the one who's keeping his family together, which isn't easy since he lives in the bad side of town called the X. By the way, X is spelled EXE, which is the shortened form of the computer command, execute. I see what you did there, Anthea Sharp. I'm not sure of the meaning behind it, but what the hell, I see it nonetheless. Jeanette asks Tam if he really truly is the hotshot gamer who can get 20 headshots in Call of Duty without breaking a sweat. Tam thinks Jeanette is messing with him since she's a rich kid who wouldn't otherwise give him the time of day. But she convinces him to visit her super high-tech home and plug himself into Feyland, where hopefully he'll be enticed to continue playing and eventually beat the Dark Queen. And by the way, Jeanette can't fight the Queen herself since the Queen banished her from the Dark Court, so Jeanette now needs another player to bring her to the court. So yes, this is a story about a boy and girl being brought together through the power of gaming. In other words, it's like one of Angry Joe's wet dreams. And really, this is a story that's tailor-made for gamers. I like to play video games myself, and I could appreciate all the terminology and gaming sequences throughout the story, even if there are no name drops of famous brand names and characters. There's one part where Jeanette plays a fighting game against an egotistical dude who really wants to show how he can beat a girl. The game is made up, of course, but I could definitely see it being a real thing. I can imagine the game playing itself in just the way the author describes it. As Jeanette and Tam make their way through Feyland, I remembered my own time playing Final Fantasy XIV, an MMO designed to keep you playing for years on end. So it helps to be a gamer when reading the story, but the author doesn't bog the story down with countless terms that only gamers would understand. Any kind of reader who likes a combination of fantasy and sci-fi can appreciate this book. The book isn't terribly long, but the story does have some interesting turns. The story shows how real life can make a seemingly simple matter more complex than what it should be. And just when I thought the story would end on a predictable note, the situation instead becomes even more dire. So this is a fun little story suitable for young adults, even if it does come across as a cheesy made-for-TV movie from the mid-90s. Speaking of the mid-90s, that was a time when there were some movies and TV shows that dealt with the exaggerated dangers of virtual reality technology. I remember a show simply called VR, which was on after The X-Files, about a woman and a team of eggheads who experimented with VR and stopped bad guys from doing bad things in the virtual world. According to the show, VR technology confuses your brain into thinking that whatever happens to you in a virtual world is actually happening in real life. So, if you get injured in the virtual world, your brain will respond appropriately and give you a busted kneecap or whatnot. This theory is, of course, absolute poppycock. So you can go right on ahead and dump hundreds of dollars into an Oculus Rift without any fear for your safety. Unless you accidentally run into a body-length mirror when you thought you were running after Kate Upton in a two-piece. But that's a whole other can of worms. I mean, I understand that the show had to have some element of danger, rather than just show someone having fun running around a virtual world without fear. But common sense dictates that the danger is just bullshit. At least in Feyland, the element of danger comes from magic, which anyone can understand. Also, someone took a little-known Stephen King story called The Lawnmower Man, which is so weird and worthless I can't recommend anyone ever reading it, and they turned it into a movie about VR. It's about people getting axed off by a serial killer in a virtual world, and it's quite a display of early CGI in all of its cheesy glory. So you may think Feyland was heavily inspired by The Matrix, but I have a feeling it was mostly inspired by the shows I just mentioned. And as it turns out, the author was partly inspired by an actual ballad from ye old times called The Ballad of Tam Lin, which influences the story's ending. If you end up liking this book, you can continue on to its two sequels, The Bright Court and The Twilight Kingdom, as well as the prequel story, The First Adventure. And there's yet another Feyland series, so it's good to see that the author has been keeping busy. That's it for this review. If you're going to play games in VR, please do so responsibly. Don't hack your little brother to death while thinking that you're boldly slaying an orc or something. Man, that was really dark, but there are all kinds of crazy stories about gamers out there, so don't be that one guy who gets crazy shit started, alright? Thanks for listening to Fantasy View, and please, keep reading.